Hello, my name is Jordan and I'm with the Shared Spaces team here at the University of Saskatchewan. In this first of two tutorials looking at the Mudbox modeling app, we will be importing a 3D scan of an object and manipulating this by changing the shape of the mesh and by adding digital paint onto the existing photographic texture. You can use this process for any existing 3D model that you wish to alter. You can also find free Creative Commons 3D models online if you do not have an existing model to work with. Alternatively, you can look at our series on scanning 3D objects on our Shared Spaces YouTube channel or website. If you are totally new to working in 3D space, we recommend starting with our terminology and basics of working in 3D tutorial. Let's get started. To download Mudbox, start by going to autodesk.com. Make sure you're on the US version of the website, which you can select in the top right corner of the screen. Search for Mudbox at the top of the page as well. You will have to make an account and either sign up for their 30-day free trial or purchase a subscription to Mudbox for $15 per month, or one of their other options. Select Download Free Trial, Home Use, and fill out all of the required information. You will have to enter in your phone number to receive a code and authenticate your account. And finally, you can install Mudbox. Open the file that was downloaded and follow the on-screen instructions to finish your installation. When you open Mudbox for the first time, this is the first screen that you will see. It will give you quick tutorials to follow to explain any of the basic features of the app. There are options to start sculpting with the starting shape, which can be more basic or advanced depending on what you want to create. There's also an option to import an existing model. This is what we'll be using later on in the video. We'll start by clicking on the cube to demonstrate the basics of navigating the 3D environment. At the bottom of the screen, you have all of the different tools available for creating and editing within Mudbox. We won't be covering them all in these tutorials, so it's best to try each out and see what it does on your own. Some might work better for you depending on what piece of art you're trying to create. Some of the different tools you have are for sculpting, painting, and moving the object. Beside that are stamps and stencils that can be used for sculpting or painting later on. And on the right, we have different layers for sculpting and painting as well. Many of these will be explained later in the video or in the following video. Now to move around the 3D environment, you can press Ctrl and click, and that will let you rotate your camera around in 3D space. Control and middle mouse will let you pan the camera around. And Control and right click will let you zoom in and out. You can also use the scroll wheel to do the same thing. In the top right of the screen, we can quickly move around the object by using this gizmo and selecting different sides to view: the left side, the front, the right, the back, and the top and bottom as well. The different lines on the screen show the axis that we are working with. Front to back is the Z-axis. Left to right is the X-axis. And up and down is the Y-axis. If we select the Move tools at the bottom of the screen, we can use the Object tool to highlight the cube, and the Translate tool to move the cube along each axis. You can see how these numbers change on the right side of the screen. You can manually enter in the numbers here if you prefer. We can also rotate the object. And scale it as well, either along each axis or by keeping them all equal. There are two main ways to import a 3D model into Mudbox. You can first select Open, immediately from the first screen you see when you open Mudbox, and find your file wherever it is saved on your computer. Or if you've closed this window, you can select File at the top of the screen and then Import, and you can find your file using the same method as before. If there are any potential issues with the mesh of your model, Mudbox will let you know and inform you of what those potential issues are. You can click on Help for more information on those issues, cancel the import by pressing Delete this mesh, or keep all to continue. Once we have a model imported, we can import its associated texture as well. Select Paint at the top right corner of the screen, right-click and create a new layer, press OK, and then select Object List and Default Material. Press the gray button beside Diffuse and we can select the texture file for our model that should be saved in the same folder as the model itself. For all the apps, the process should be the same. Luma AI was the only scanning application that seemed to cause a problem with our import process when trying to add its texture. Depending on the size of your model being imported, it may be too large to use in other applications. For our Shared Spaces app, it works best with the models under 40,000 vertices and ideally under 20,000. Mudbox only shows us the total amount of faces given in a model, so reducing this as much as possible will help us reach these targets. With our model imported and the texture added, we're going to begin by scaling up our model because it came in so small, and we'll move it up as well so the grid lines are not in our way as much. We can turn off and on the wireframe that shows all the different polygons that our model is made out of, as well as the mesh errors. Those are the red dots that show potential issues with our mesh that Mudbox warned us about earlier when importing. Now that we have everything set up how we want, we're going to begin transforming it with some of the sculpting tools we have available. Some of these will add onto the material while others will take away from it. We'll start by making a new sculpting layer to work on. Some important options to experiment with as well are on the right side. The size and strength of your sculpting tool selected will make a huge difference on the effect it has on your model. There are so many different tools here, it's best to try to experiment with them all on a basic shape like a cube or a sphere to see how each behaves on its own, and then using them as you see fit on your own model. To edit the texture of our model, select Paint in the top right corner and create a new layer. Select your brush in the Tools option in the bottom left and make sure Off is selected for both Stamp and Stencils for now. Similar to the sculpting tools, we can change the strength and size of our brush on the right. You can also set the color by selecting this option and using the Color tool. If you want to use a stamp, you can select one of the options here below to give your paintbrush a different look and feel. Many of these options will change how the stamp behaves, as well as give a lot of flexibility on the look you want to achieve when painting your model. There are also stencils which show a flat, transparent image on the screen. Whatever you paint over the stencil will show that same pattern on the model itself. These can be used with the stamps as well to get a more interesting look. The fall off option will determine the look and intensity of the color being used. All of these can be used with the sculpting tools as well. You can see just between these four how much of a difference they can make and how useful they can be depending on the stage of painting you're on or the specific part that you're painting. To export your model, select it with the Object tool, click on File, and Export Selection. Here you can select your file type between FBX, OBJ, and Mudbox's own mud file. You can select where to save it on your device, and finally give it a name, and then hit Save. To export your texture, right-click on one of your paint layers, select Export Group Merged. You can name this file as well, select where it is saved, and what file type you want it to save as. Manipulating 3D scans of objects is just one of the steps that we cover in our AR Production Pathways learning materials. Please visit our Shared Spaces website or YouTube channel to find other videos for your augmented reality workflow.